I'm John Evans. Welcome to another episode of One on One. They head up the men's and women's basketball programs at UNC Wilmington. But Takayo Siddle and Nicole Woods have more than just that in common. Both grew up here in North Carolina. They played their high school and college basketball at schools in the state, and both went on to coach as assistants at universities here in North Carolina before landing their first head coaching jobs here in Wilmington. But Nicole Woods would like to add something else to their similarities by successfully rebuilding a program that has fallen on hard times recently. Takayo Siddle did it with the men's program, and he thinks it won't be long before Woods does it too. They are the leaders of the basketball programs at UNCW. Happy to have men's head basketball coach Takayo Siddle back on the podcast. Coach, good to see you again.
Good to see you, John. Thanks for having me.
And for the first time, let's welcome the head coach of the women's basketball team, Nicole Woods. Coach Woods, welcome to the One on One with John Evans podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Tell me about the past 5 months. What's it been like for you since you became Mike Oblinger's first major hire at UNCW?
No pressure at all. First major hire. Well, I tell you, it's been a whirlwind. As you can imagine, I came from Charlotte, had been there the last 10 years, and I'm from Gastonia, which is right outside of Charlotte. So you can imagine what it took moving everything here to Wilmington. So from that standpoint, it was a little bit of a whirlwind. And then was without a staff for 2 months. And so the first 2 months were definitely me drinking water out of a fire hose. But since then, and having my staff now, it's been great. It's been a great transition. Mike Oblinger, Tiffany Tucker, Takayo have all been great resources for me in helping me with the transition.
And Takayo, what were your thoughts when you heard that Nicole Woods was the new head basketball coach of the women's program?
I was excited. I take pride in obviously my program here on the men's side, but I've always wanted to see the women's program succeed as well because and I think you know this, John, like this Wilmington, North Carolina, the university, I think that all the athletic programs can be successful, but, I feel like me and Nicole, we work hand in hand. And I think, as we continue to succeed, it can only help her. And when she starts getting this thing rolling, which I think she's going to do it very, very quickly, no pressure, coach. I think she's going to do an unbelievable job. I think we can, feed off each other and help each other. And, I think we've kind of had similar paths and, we both were considered really good recruiters and relationship people. And as I got to know more about her, I got even more excited that she was going to be, one of my friends and somebody that I work hand in hand with right beside. So I'm excited. I've been excited. And I told her the other day I was in the gym, just, kind of fiddling around watching her workouts. And I started to get chills. And I really do mean this. Like I could feel the spirit. It was really high in there. And I like to think that I know what it looks like a little bit. And she's definitely off to a great start.
Well, you mentioned that you have similar stories. I'm going to get into your backgrounds in a little while, but, Coach Siddle, you came in, the program had struggled for a couple of years, and it was your job to kind of turn it around. And Coach Woods, the program here has struggled for a couple of years, and it's your job to kind of turn it around. Did you have conversations in this process, Coach Woods, maybe picking Takayo's brain a little bit more and finding out what he did when he started, how to make this program your own?
Well, one thing he said to me from the beginning, he said, get people who fit who you are. Fit who you are and that are good people to the core. And that's something that I was going to do anyways. And because I feel like a lot of times, you might go and you might see a 4 or 5 star recruit and they might be an amazing player, but they just don't fit who you are as a person and what you want your program to be. And that's something that's big for me in terms of the young ladies that I bring into this program. I only brought one in this year and could have brought multiples in, but I didn't. I passed on a lot because they just didn't fit who we were and who I wanted our team to be. And so Takayo's been great. Like I said, I've tapped him a couple of times about some different things. I'm the first one to say I don't know it all, but I am one to say that I know some people that knows the answers to the questions. And so he's always been there and has really helped me here from the beginning to really understand the lay of the land of Wilmington, the city itself, as well as the university.
What were some of those things that you remember when you took over, Coach Siddle, about, those first couple of months, the first 6 months, the first year that maybe you put up a warning flag to Coach Woods about don't fall into this kind of a trap?
Yeah, for me, I'll just say when I came in, obviously you have to evaluate the job before you take over. So I wanted to get in the building and kind of see it up and, live in person. One thing that when I took over, some of my mentors told me is just make sure you be yourself and don't waver for anybody. The things that you believe in, don't waver at all. And like Nicole just mentioned, you have to have the right personnel around you. That's the team. That's the coaching staff. That's the support staff. Just getting the personnel in place and then establishing your culture, what you're going to be about, your standards, your expectations, all of that. And it wasn't where it needed to be. So we had to do a complete facelift with all of that stuff. And it wasn't comfortable, but it had to be done. And I think we're off to a pretty good start.
You both, as I said before, you have a lot in common. You both grew up in North Carolina, both played college ball in North Carolina. You both got into coaching before getting that first head coaching job. Coach Siddle, how has the sport changed in the 15, 16 plus years since you actually played at Gardner-Webb?
Well, I'll say this, John. I think on my side, the young men have changed with the way that they kind of operate. They don't necessarily, like, you can't coach them the same. I can't coach them the same as I did when I first started. You're not gonna get the results that you want. So we've kind of had to adjust to the type of player, the type of person that you're getting. And I would say, you just have to deal with them a little different. Mm-hmm. I would say that's probably the biggest thing, just the players, the people that you're dealing with. They're different than what they were when I first started. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's just something that we've had to adjust to, and I've had to adjust to it even over the course of the last few years since I've been here.
Coach Woods, what about you? What have you noticed since the days at Belmont Abbey and the times that you were actually playing ball, and then your, decade plus of assistant coaching? What's the difference in the sport now from when you played it?
Well, it's this thing called the transfer portal, and I remember being a freshman at Belmont Abbey, and I came in out of shape and, just thought I was God's gift. They should be happy to have me here, and hadn't done anything all summer long and hit that track, that first Tuesday. And it was rough going for me. And I remember struggling my freshman year, so much so I packed up my dorm room. And keep in mind, I went to Belmont Abbey and I'm from Gastonia. So 10 minutes, up the road. I packed up my room and my mom looked down when I pulled in the carport. She saw all the stuff in my room, in my car, and she put the padlock on the door. And she said, "Well, you can't come back here, So I went back, and it ended up turning out to be, pretty good for me. But my point is, transferring wasn't even a thought at that time. It was, you need to get in shape. I need to get better. There's no way I should play, in comparison to my teammates. And that's what I did, and I just think that the transfer portal has opened up our game in a way that's never been seen before. Yeah, people transferred before, but it's just at a whole different level now, especially with them not having to sit out a year. And I think that makes a big difference, and saying, Takayo said, hey, it's different. It is very different, because this guy or this girl is like, well, hey, if I can't do this here, I don't have to work hard. I don't have to do the things that, you should do to be able to play. I could just leave. And that's a big hurdle that we all face, and so we're recruiting our team every single day, every single day.
And I was going to ask you, as athletes, is it better for the athlete now? Maybe tougher for the coaches, tougher for the program, but is it better for the athlete now, Coach Woods, than it maybe was when you were playing ball?
Well, it's definitely better overall for the athlete. I came through when, they could give you bagel but no cream cheese, for during Christmas break and things of that nature. So they do have a lot of other things afforded to them, summer access, things that we just did not have coming through when it was time to play. And, I think it's better in that regard, but I don't know if it's better to say, hey, it's one thing if there's a coaching change, things of that nature, I want to transfer. But it's another thing to say, I just don't want to put the legwork in, so I'm going to go over here and play for X, Y, and Z. I just don't feel like that is, really teaching them what life is really like. When you get into the real world and they get into their professions, are they just going to quit, when things get hard, or are they going to put the time and the work in to be able to get better? And that's my concern.
Do you recruit differently now to KO than you did 10 years ago? Do you have to recruit a young man now? And maybe you recruited his parents 10, 12 years ago. Do you still have to approach an athlete the same way about their future, about the UNCW program?
I think you do. I think you have to. We've kept our same, I won't say recruiting philosophy, but for me, we've always recruited families. We've always recruited them really hard, maybe sometimes harder than the prospect. But I think when you look at it, like Nicole said, you're recruiting them every day. One thing that we've always done is we lay everything out there for them and tell them how it's going to go. So when they arrive on campus, if they do decide to come play here at UNCW, for example, that they know exactly what they're getting. And then along the way, we keep it completely real with them, and we tell them, how they're progressing, because we're evaluating them every day, and we want to make sure that that everything that's out in front of them on a daily basis, they know exactly what we expect. They know exactly what they're walking into. So I think that's the best way, and I think that's how we've had the best results here. Is just laying everything out, keeping it real with them along the way, and we haven't had a lot of guys leave. We've had a few for sure, but I think they appreciate the honesty up front and throughout the whole time that they're here.
To be a standout now, is it a year-round commitment, Coach Siddle? I mean, do your recruits or your players have to be basketball 24/7 outside of class? Obviously, I know they got to go to class and everything else, but in those summer months, are they thinking basketball rather than, well, maybe I'll play golf or maybe I'll play tennis?
Well, it's year round, John. To be honest with you, I mean, when you look at our summers, they're here 10 weeks, and we're able to work with them for 8 weeks. But they're here. We try to mix it up and keep it fun for them. And I've experienced it different ways. I did this past summer a lot different than I've done the first couple summers I was here. We did all team workouts. We had about 31 team workouts this summer, and in the past couple summers we've mixed it up with a couple individual workouts during the week, and then maybe on the back end of the week we'll do a couple team. But it's a job, and if you want to be good at it, you do have to work at it. But what I did not want to do was burn them out, and not make it fun for them to the point where they didn't want to come in the gym and didn't enjoy coming to practice and being around the coaches being around basketball. I didn't want that. So I think we did a pretty good job of kind of balancing it out for them.
You've both been around athletics for a long time. Coach Woods, it seems like every day I read this article, I read that article, and one college is moving to another conference, and then you've got 2 or 3 going to another conference. And then before you know it, you've got some conferences with 18, 19, 20 schools in it. Is that consolidation a good thing for college sports in your mind?
I don't know if it's good or bad. I just know I'm confused. I don't know who's where. I have to look it up all the time, especially with doing scheduling now. I've got to look to see who's where, who's going where, things of that nature. It's very different. I just can't even imagine the schools that are on the West Coast being a part of the Atlantic Coast Conference.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it, that there's a lot of things that go into it. But I've always been a fan of, having regional, teams that I feel like brings about certain types of rivalries. Like the fact that Maryland's not in the ACC anymore. It's just, I still remember those Juan Dixon days,
Oh, yeah.
and he, the old Big East, and just it's just different now. And I think some of the rivalries and things that made those games that much more exciting to watch, might falter a little bit because of it.
What about you, Takayo? Are you a fan? I mean, now I have to think about, okay, Texas A&M, are they in, or when do they, I mean, it was Texas A&M, Texas, Southwest Conference, Georgetown, UConn, Big East. It doesn't roll off the tongue like it used to have Stanford in the ACC.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with everything, and I think Nicole answered it perfectly. But let's talk about our conference. I don't like it for us. I don't like it, and I've told our commissioner that I don't like it because having 14 teams and in a one bid league, it doesn't help us.
Right.
It doesn't help us. It makes it even harder for us. So adding Stony Brook, Campbell, and I just don't. It makes it tougher for us, but for everybody else, Nicole answered that perfect. It's not the same. It's not the same. Not having Maryland in, like, it doesn't. It doesn't roll off the tongue. Then you talk about Virginia potentially going to the Big Ten, or it just doesn't. It doesn't roll off the tongue like you said. It's as smooth as it used to. But in our conference in particular, I don't like it. It makes it tougher for us.
Coach Woods, I know you're fairly new to the Wilmington community, and I know after this interview you'll subscribe and follow the One-on-One with John Evans podcast and listen to all 83 of the episodes. But until that time, the first interview I did with Coach Siddle, he shared a turning point story with me, that he was away from home at Hargrave Military Academy, wanted to go home, and he called his mom. And Coach Siddle, will you share that story again, that you called home and something happened that really changed your career path?
It did. When I was coming out of high school, I told you this, John. I needed a little bit more structure, just all around. Basketball, academically. I just needed a little bit more structure. So I went down to Hargrave Military Academy, which I've heard a lot about it. And it was a big time program at the time. And Kevin Keats was running that program. And I was able to see their last tournament. And it was cadets everywhere. It was big time athletes flying around. And I wanted to be a part of it. But I didn't know what it entailed. I didn't know the structure of the military lifestyle. I didn't know all of that. And so, long story short, when I made a decision to go up and try out, and Kevin offered me a spot on his team, I was excited about it. We made it happen. I get on campus. I'm lost. I'm having to go to formation at 6 a.m, and I don't know where I'm going. I'm lost. I'm late. I have to, go walk a square for hours, push-ups. I'm getting punished for being late because I'm lost. And it was just a tough go for me for a little while. And, I was like, I'm a mama's boy, I'm a homebody. And I'm like, get this, I want to go back home. So I called my mom. I called my mom one night after study hall, and I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I want to go home. And she's like, boy, I paid $20,000 for you to go there. I'll talk to you later. And she hung up on me. And 2 weeks later, I was good. I was at home. I was rolling. Like, I was happy to be there, and everything got a little easier for me. And I was able to play for Kevin. And, fast forward years later, I was able to come back and work for Kevin and at Hargrave, and then here at UNCW, which, provided this opportunity that I'm in right now. And, we're lifetime friends, and I consider him a mentor and a father figure for me. So that was a turning point. And if mom would have let me come home, I probably wouldn't be sitting here talking to you right now.
What about you, Coach Woods? Do you have a turning point story you can share? I know tearing both ACLs would probably be a little discouraging, but what about you? What's a turning point story in your career path?
I was a little young when that happened, young and stubborn. So that was at 14 and 15 years old. So for me, that was just kind of a chip on my shoulder to show people I can still do this thing. I went from being for one of the top guards in the state to, 98 and 99, the ACL wasn't a big injury, and it was considered to be career ending, especially for girls at the time. So that was my motivating factor. But the turning point for me was after my sophomore year. I played my first 2 years, and I didn't play as much as I wanted to. And, I went to my coaches afters, and I asked them, what do I need to do to play? Like, I know I can help. I know I can be good. And Missy Typer, my coach at Belmont Abbey, said, you got to lose some weight. She said, you can't go more than five minutes at a time right now. And, I can't trust you to put you out there. I said, all right, coach, I want to lose weight. Why did I say that? Fast forward that entire summer, from the spring all the way through the beginning of school year, my head coach and my assistant coach ran with me 6 days a week. And we would run for miles. They trained for marathon. We would run for miles, just run until I say stop. Changed my diet. 30 pounds later, came back fresh my junior year, first team all conference, senior year, player of the year in the conference. And that was a turning point for me. That was the first time that I had really ever worked on my game and my physical attributes to be able to sustain the game that I loved and to be able to play. And I realized that, just because you've just been naturally good at something, that's not good enough. Everybody's good. You got to work, and you got to put the time in when nobody's watching to be able to get what you want. And so, I always, had that mentality, but to actually put it into practice, that was definitely a turning point for me in my basketball career that then, carried along with me in my professional career as well.
But what a gift, though, they gave you. I mean, it's one thing, especially back then, for coaches to be X and O's and in the locker room at practice, but to be willing to run with you, away from the program and away from the basketball floor had to be just an encouraging in ways that maybe you didn't even think about at the time.
Absolutely. I hope my players don't ask me to run with them. I will. I will. I don't know how much I'll help them. I'm a Peloton girl. But yeah, Adrian Harlow and Missy Tyber, and 8 o'clock every morning. And they invested in me. They invested in me, and I'll never forget that. And they gave me my first coaching opportunity. I started out as a graduate assistant at SIU Carbondale. And Missy Tyber had gotten the head coaching job. She called me up. I had no desire at the time to be a coach. I was getting ready to go run a Boys and Girls Club and do my nonprofit thing, which that's what my master's is in. And she called me up in 2009, and here I am. So I owe it all to them for sure.
What changed between April of 2022 and early this year, Coach Woods? Because you were quoted in your hometown paper The Gaston Gazette is saying, I'm one of the few assistant coaches that has no desire to be a head coach at all. What changed?
No desire, and that is an absolute fact. I actually, growing up and in my early, adolescent and teenage career, I never had plans to coach, period. And I like to say Missy Tyber tricked me because she knows that my calling in life is to help people. As I said, my master's is in public administration with a concentration in nonprofits. I was a Boys and Girls Club kid growing up, so I thought that's what I was going to do. But I think she knew once I got into college athletics that I would see the impact that I can have on those young girls' lives, to be an example and a role model for them. And so, I didn't want to be a head coach because I didn't think that I would still be able to have the relationships with the players that I really enjoyed on a day-to-day basis. I didn't think from what I had seen that would be possible. And then I was just fearful, I was fearful that I wasn't going to be good enough. I was fearful of failing. And, one day I just asked myself, why not? Why not me? And once I answered that question and said, all right, Lord, I'm going to do what you'll have me to do. Literally, I went into my boss, Kara Consuegra's office on the Monday that we got back from our conference tournament loss. And I told her, I said, listen, I don't know what's next. I said, but I know my time here is done. I'm going to help you to find my replacement, to recruit some kids before I leave. I think I want to be a head coach, and I'm going to start, doing what I need to do to make that happen. The next day, I got a call from UNCW. So there we go.
That question, why not me, is amazing. What it'll do for your inner self when you ask yourself that. That's a great story. Coach Siddle, you've had a lot of success in the last 2 years. 51 wins, CAA tournament championship games. One site's picking you guys now as being the favorites for the league. Is that changing the way you prepare for this season compared to the way you prepared for the past two?
No, that's not any, like, I don't pay attention to that. You know me well enough, John. The team that I have, the team that we return, has made me prepare for this season a little bit different, if that makes sense. Right. We have 9 returners. We have some experience. We've added some really good pieces. We've added some experience. And so the way we attacked the summer, the way we've attacked this preseason, we've attacked it differently than we have in the past, trying to get us ahead of the game, a few steps, and have us more game ready on game one. So we've attacked things different, but the preseason rankings, they don't mean anything to us. We're just working and taking it day by day and trying to do the day in front of us well. That's what we're about here.
Fans are going to recognize a lot of names: Trezarian White, Malik Harden-Hayes, guys that they've seen, like you said, guys that they've seen play a lot of minutes for you. What kind of team are they going to be able to watch when that first ball goes up and that whistle blows later this year?
I feel like after I say this, I feel like I'm doing a introductory press conference, because everybody says this, but we're gonna be fast. We're gonna be explosive, offensively, more than we have in the past. I think the CBI championship year, I think we had some firepower. When you talk about Mike, both Jalen's and James Baker, and those guys were our core group, and Shaquem, those guys were, they kind of handled the scoring load for us, but I think we'll be 9 to 10 deep with not a lot of drop off. And I think we're going to be fast and explosive on offense. We'll be able to play the way that I've been wanting to play since I've been here. And then defensively, we'll be able to press the entire game like I've always wanted to. We'll be able to use our bench and just, throw waves of energy. And, I'm excited about this group. And it'll be, if we can stay healthy, it'll be exactly what I visioned when I took over the job.
Coach Woods, give your fans a little preview of some of the names, some of the ways you want to play when the Lady Seahawks hit the floor?
Well, I can guarantee you a few things. Number one, as Coach Siddle said, when you come to watch us play, you're going to feel that it's different. The energy in which we play with, we're going to compete, we're going to rebound, and we're going to defend every single night. I believe when you do those three things that you always have a chance to win the game. And we've worked all summer on those things, as well as skill development. We have a lot of players, some that a lot of people don't know. You know, we had 4 season-ending injuries last year, and we've got some of those that'll be back that, you know, a lot of people don't know about. We've got some freshmen that people don't know about. And then we've got returners that people do know about, like Lexi Jackson and Brittany Range, Evan Miller, names like that. And so for us, we will play a decent amount of people as well. I only have 9, so that's 11. But that's the good thing about it, is that everybody knows they have an opportunity to play. And so everybody's out there, they're doing everything I ask them to do. Offensively, we definitely are going to share the ball and emphasizing, you know, us getting great shots. You know, I believe we can make great shots. You know, Coach Siddle's like, man, y'all making shots. I'm like, yeah, we can make great shots, and we're going to work to get the great shot, not the good shot. And I believe if we do those things, and as I said, compete, rebound, and defend, that will be pretty fun to watch. And I tell our girls all the time, nobody except for us, you know, believes what we can do. And so now it's our job to get out there and show everybody who we are. They rebranded us. You know, I allowed our team to come up with our mantra for the program this year. And so you'll see hashtag rise above. And that came from them, because they know where they've been and they know where they want to go. And so it's just my job to help them get there.
When I set this interview up, I asked Joe Browning that I wanted to do a status of the Seahawk Hoops program. So, Coach Woods, if I had to ask you to describe the status of the Seahawk basketball programs, what would you say?
I would say we're rebuilding in every way, rebuilding the culture, rebuilding the basketball side of it. And, you know, everybody is, we read a book called The Energy Bus. So everybody's on the bus. We're all headed in the right direction. And I'm really looking forward to what's to come. And I tell everybody, you just got to come and see for yourself. You know, I can tell you all I want to, but you got to come see. And you all have been here, you know, for some years, so that you'll be able to see the difference in where UNCW women's basketball is headed.
Okay, Coach Siddle, your turn. Describe the status of the Seahawk basketball programs.
The status, we're in a good place. We're ready for breakthrough. We're ready for a breakthrough. Like we're ready to do something very special.
Well,
Amen.
Takayo Siddle and Nicole Woods, I appreciate you taking the time. I know you guys are busy. I know the first practice of the fall isn't for another month or so, but I know it's a 24/7, 365. Coach Woods, hope you are settling in here to Wilmington. We appreciate you joining us, and thanks for taking the time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Takayo Siddle, it's always good to talk to you again, and I know we'll be talking to you as the season goes on, and I know that that team's ready to rock and roll over there at Trask Coliseum. Good to talk to you again.
Thank you, John. I appreciate you.
A big thank you to head coaches Takayo Siddle and Nicole Woods for carving out some time in their very busy schedules and joining me for this week's podcast interview. Their fall practice season should begin sometime around the middle of October. And if you want to follow along with everything men's and women's basketball, just go to uncwsports.com. Both of the coaches are active on social media, so follow them there. The women's team will open up at Trask Coliseum on October the 30th. And while the men's schedule hasn't been finalized yet, look for them to open up in Trask just about the same time. Now, before we go, I'd like to ask you a favor. Please follow or subscribe to the One-on-One with John Evans podcast on whatever app you use to listen to your favorite shows. And if you'd be so kind, please leave us a rating or a review. I do want to hear what you think about our interviews. And the more feedback we have from friends like you, the higher we'll be listed on the podcast apps, and the better chance we'll have of bringing in even more new listeners. I'm John Evans. Thanks so much for joining us for this episode of One on One.